You know when your friend, a coworker, or someone close to you is grieving and you just don't know what to say to them? Our guest today has some really good tips that can help you with just that problem. She herself was widowed at a young age, and she's turned her grief into a story of hope that has helped hundreds of people. She's the author of Widows Wear Stilettos and When Bad Things Happen to Good Women. I'm really excited to talk to Carole Brody Fleet.
Ready.
Sophia Silva is a positive psychology coach who shares with her audiences the knowledge of leading figures to provide a roadmap for people who are interested in leading a life worth living. This is What the Flow with Sophia Silva.
Hi, Carole. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So you are the author of multiple books, but one of the
Correct.
books that I'm really interested in is the title of Widows Wear Stilettos. Why did you title it that?
That moment actually, believe it or not, comes from a moment at my late husband's funeral. My late husband was a police officer right here in Southern California for 28 years. And he had a very large and very grand and beautiful funeral. And up until that point, the word widow had never really entered my head.
Yeah.
You see, he had been ill for 2 years with Lou Gehrig's disease. And you're just thinking survival. And as the funeral was in process, it occurred to me, I'm a widow. I'm a widow. I can't be a widow. I wear 5-inch heels. I yell at the Dallas Cowboys on television. I listen to heavy metal and music, and I know all the words to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm not a widow, because at that moment in time, I had the same image in my head of widowhood that a lot of other people have. And Widows Wear Stilettos was my way of saying, we're here too. Not all widows got to be married for 50 or 60 years. Not all widows have grandchildren and are retired. Widowhood is in all faces from all places, and Widows Wear Stilettos was my way of saying, we're here and we matter.
Yeah, I love that title.
Thank you.
It's very catchy.
Thank you.
Obviously, you dealt with something that is extremely painful, and you had a daughter as well, which I imagine
Correct.
is extremely difficult for her. How were you able to turn this grief into something positive?
Well, when children are involved, it's doubly important, because no matter their age, the lessons that our children learn most often from their parents are caught. They're not taught. And I knew that our daughter was watching me recover and go through this process. And I had an opportunity to model positive, healthy, proactive recovery.
I love that.
And I wanted to let her know that going into the fetal position, as tempting as it was not going to be an option for us. Not now and not ever, no matter what kind of adversity strikes, that we were going to get up and brush ourselves off, and we were going to get back to living. And we didn't even know what life looked like for us at that point.
Of course, no one knows.
Because it doesn't come with a set of instructions, does
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
But that, to me, was the most important lesson that she could catch, that we could go through this experience together. And I was also very careful to continue to create an environment where she could always talk about Daddy. She could be mad, she could be quiet, she could be sad, she could be laughing her head off. Whatever she was feeling at the time, I created the environment where, grief time isn't over. We're not going to stuff it in our pockets and move on, because that's not how to deal with it.
You just went where I was going to ask you next. How'd you know? The grieving period, I mean, there is a certain period, right, where you need to grieve and go through the pain and sit with it. And we were talking about it earlier with the producer. Just be in your pajamas and not get out of bed and not leave the house.
She's been reading the book, because it's true. The first couple of weeks, I was on the couch in penguin print flannel pajamas. There's a visual. And that's where I was going to stay, because life was over. He was no longer here to take care of. He was no longer here to care about me, so why should I care about me? And then I thought, you know what? No, it's not gonna go this way. I have a choice that I can make. We don't have a choice when it comes to life and death. We have no control. But the reaction, that I can control.
Yes.
And that's when I put the penguin print flannel pajamas away. They had feet in them too.
I love those, the zip-up ones.
Right.
Those are the
so
best.
glamorous.
Yeah. No, I think that's so important, because there is a period where you need to grieve. You can't just ignore it, but you also can't live in that for the rest of your
That's
life.
right. Well, and the grief period certainly lasts beyond 2 weeks. I just spent 2 weeks on a couch with the blinds closed. The grieving period lasts much longer than that, and it should.
Yeah.
But it was making the choice to get proactive about how I was going to design a healing journey for myself and help my daughter design her healing journey as well. Because she was 11 years old when her dad died. She was right on the cusp of adolescence.
Yeah, that's not easy.
It's not easy under the best of circumstances. No. But it all came down to making a choice and deciding I couldn't control the last 2 years of my life with the illness and with Mike's death, but I can control how we're going to recover from this. And that is the most important point that I could convey to your audience. Is
Absolutely.
That you can take control. This was a destiny that I didn't choose. And if I don't choose something, it means that I don't want it.
Yeah.
And I was not going to let this moment define my present and my future.
You're like the perfect example that we can choose how we react to something and how we feel.
That's right.
Why do you think that way?
I think it has come more through this experience out of necessity, out of not being willing to be defined by widowhood or by an illness or by a tragedy. You know, my late husband didn't want that.
Yeah.
He wanted us to continue living. He was frantic that I would not find love again. I asked him if I could take some time off on that one, and I did.
That's awkward.
But he was so, he talked to my mother behind my back and said, please encourage her to find love again. I mean, this was a really, really incredible man. But going on in a positive and productive way is also keeping his legacy of love and service to the community alive.
Yeah.
That's the greatest gift that I could ever give back to him.
So have you gone out and done dating since this happened, or how can women that are widows go out and date afterwards?
Well, first of all, yes, they absolutely can. I do a great many interviews. I even teach workshops and give presentations on dating after loss or divorce or breakup.
Yeah.
It's absolutely okay. That's the first answer. Second answer is I have cut down on my dating since I remarried in 2009.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. My husband will be laughing at this. But in between the time that I was widowed and the time that I remarried, I did do a lot of dating and a lot of legwork. But I waited until I knew the time was right for me. And I do teach that before you even think of dating, there are actually 10 ways that I discovered that you can determine if you're ready to date again. Because it's not just about going out on dates. It's about rediscovering who you are. After loss, after divorce, after breakup, because you're not the same person.
No.
And you have to get to know you first before you invite someone else into your paradigm and into your life dynamic.
Well, I'm a strong believer that we're continually evolving throughout our lives, and we should always do work on ourselves, and we should always try to improve, and we should always introspect, no matter how old we are.
Exactly.
And that's what you're saying.
If you're doing it right, that's exactly how it should be. The moment I feel that we become one-dimensional, that we become where we are and we quit growing, what happens to things that quit growing? They die. And I don't ever want to stop that. And I also love periodically stopping and taking a look back to see how far I have come.
Exactly.
Since I was that person on the couch in the pajamas, not knowing what to do next or who to talk to or where to even start.
This program is brought to you by
Anaheim Stoneworks, the company that has taken all the obstacles out of your way. From start to finish, Anaheim Stoneworks takes care of each and every step to give your home the unique look that you've been dreaming of. Anaheim Stoneworks. Quality from start to finish.
Master Toddy LA Training Center offers authentic Muay Thai training with locations in Bangkok, Pomona, and Anaheim. For more information, visit mastertoddyla.com. Which is normal. So how did you make that first step? Where did you start?
The first place I started was, now you have to remember too, when my husband died, the internet was brand new. It was a baby. It wasn't the internet that we know today that has incredible resources and communities and education. the internet at that point was basically two things. You had chat rooms and you had porn. And I really didn't need either one. So there wasn't a lot.
I feel like one leads into the other.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's like the gateway.
Yeah. Well, not needing one of those two things, I turned to books. Now, there weren't, I stand corrected. There were wonderful books. I have many of them. But I also had questions that these books weren't answering. And this is how Widows Wear Stilettos, the first book, came into existence, really, is because I did have questions that nobody was answering. What about dating? What about intimacy?
Yeah.
What about facing the first holidays, the first birthdays? How do I get my benefits from the government because I'm not finding any assistance there? How do I make all the legal transitions with my house, with my cars, with my bank accounts? There were so many questions.
That's a lot.
And no one was answering them. And that's when I wrote Widows Wear Stilettos. And those are some of the things that are in that book, are the discussions that nobody else was having. You know, who's that girl in the mirror? Because I don't recognize her. So there's fashion and beauty and diet and exercise. There's even recipes that are healthy and quick. So, because, you know, we all know as women that we don't take care of ourselves when we are grieving, when we are depressed. Which
makes it worse.
It makes it absolutely worse.
Yeah.
Because now we're talking about health.
Yeah.
So there's so many facets to recovering from any kind of loss, not just death, but any kind of loss. And I really love to teach about rediscovery and how that happens practically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, because that evolution that you're talking about is vital to recovery. It's absolutely vital.
Yeah, it's vital to our entire lives.
Exactly.
So you actually have another book right now that's about to be coming out, right?
That's
Which
correct.
is When Bad Things Happen to Good Women.
That's right.
What is that all about?
Oh, this book I'm so excited about. This book is actually a compilation. Over 40 women contributed their stories of tragedy, of challenge, and of recovery and great hope to this book. And it encompasses just about every scenario that a woman can have or will face in her life, from divorce, loss of a loved one, to a loss of a pet even, to things like, I know, nobody's talking about that either, to things like a broken engagement, betrayal, being cheated on, or finding out you were cheated on and you found it out from your husband's mistress.
Yeah, that's horrible.
That is...
So the book is stories of women that have gone through this?
That's right. Along with my own voice and commentary and instruction, we talk about things like miscarriage and stillbirth and infertility issues, surviving suicide. There are so many different things, but the other part of the book that is extremely important is for the people who surround somebody who's in crisis, who don't know what to say and who don't know what to do.
Yes.
There are actual directions and steps. Here's what to say and do. Actionable steps.
That can be very useful.
Here's not what to say and do.
Yeah.
And the don't do's, the without a doubt don'ts, are actual quotes from actual people who have said some really crazy things in the guise of trying to comfort. So the book
do you
is
have any examples?
Oh my gosh, how long is your show? There are so many examples. Well, you know, let's start out with the most important don't say.
Yeah.
The one thing that you never want to say is, I know how you feel. Here's what happens with I know how you feel. Oh, Sophia, I'm so sorry. I know how you feel, because when my great aunt died and she was 105 and it was, you know.
You just made it about yourself.
I just turned the spotlight onto myself and my tale of woe.
Yes.
What somebody's trying to do, in fairness, is compare their pain to yours, which is incomparable.
Right. So we always try to relate as human beings. We need to find common ground,
which is okay,
which unites us. Yeah.
So what you say instead is, if you truly can relate, you know, if God forbid you were a widow, I would say things like, I understand. I'm empathizing with you. I don't say I know how you feel, because when I was in that situation, I did this, and like you said, we had the spotlight shift.
Yeah.
It's not about me right now, it's about you. So we never want to say I know how you feel. We also
But I understand how you feel.
I understand how you feel. Or, you know, one of the most comforting things that I heard after my husband died was from a work colleague at the time, and she said, Carole, I cannot imagine the pain you must be in right now. I'm so sorry. I don't know when we lost the fine art of saying I'm sorry, but we have. And we need to get that back. We need to bring that around, because I'm sorry, that's really compassionate and it's really heartfelt. The other thing that we don't want to say is, call me if you need anything.
So I have to call you. We have to take the action.
Right.
The outsider has to take the action.
Proactive. Say, you know, Sophia, I'm going to pick up your kids. I'm going to go to the grocery store for you. I'm going to show up with a heat and eat lasagna. I'm going to do something that is saying to you, you don't have to worry about this because I've handled it.
It's done. Yeah. Like saying call me if you need anything is almost like a cop out.
But people really, they genuinely mean it most times.
Yeah.
But, you know, nobody's going to want to do that because they feel like a burden. They feel like a bother.
Of course.
And people are afraid to pick up the phone because they don't want to be a bother, and you're not being a bother, by the way, and they're afraid. If I say something, she's going to get upset. Let me save some time. If we've had a loss or a tragedy or we're already upset. Okay, so that's done.
Yeah.
But if you call me up and say, Carole, I'm going to get you out of the house for an hour. Let's go to Starbucks and have a coffee. Let's go have a lunch or a cocktail or something like that. Be proactive.
I think people sometimes might feel like maybe I shouldn't take her out of the house, or maybe I should just leave her alone for a little bit. Like, what's a good time to bring that up?
The person that you're calling on is going to let you know that.
Okay.
If they're not quite ready, because the thing that I teach the people on the other side of that phone call is you have to start accepting invitations periodically. You have to let people into your grief. You have to let people who want to help lift you up. That was one of the first lessons I learned early on, is that people wanted to put their arms around me, either, you know, physically or figuratively. They wanted to do something, and you have to allow people that love you and care and are worried about you. You have to let them in, and you have to allow them to do that.
Yeah.
So there is two sides to that coin, absolutely.
Because some people might just shut down.
And do. And
so if someone shuts down, should you just show up at their door?
I am not a fan of them just showing up. Because you never know what you're showing up into.
Okay.
But you give them a call first. Say, I would like to come over and.
What if they're not answering the phone?
If you think that somebody's in crisis, I don't care if they wind up hating you. I've said this many times. If you wind up hating me, at least you will be here to do it. If you think that somebody is genuinely in crisis, do not hesitate to intervene. Do not hesitate to call the National Suicide Hotline. They are phenomenal people there. I've worked with them often. Do not hesitate to call, if you're intimate enough with this person that you know loved ones, to call them and say, I'm concerned, I'm worried. Don't give up. Don't quit. Because if somebody is genuinely in crisis, the warning signs are there. And they're listed, they're on the internet, they're in all three of my books.
What are some of the warning signs?
Well, you mentioned one of them is if they're not answering calls, if they're refusing to communicate at all, if they are shirking responsibilities, work, children, any kind of obligations.
So any kind of behavior that's like shutting down, basically.
Exactly. If they make any reference that implies that they don't want to live anymore, don't just assume that it's a phase.
Yeah.
It's not just a phase. You know, nobody looks at a broken leg and says, well, that's just a phase, she'll get over it.
Yeah.
Well, you can have a broken spirit and a broken heart. In fact, broken heart syndrome is a thing. It is real. And when people start talking about not wanting to live anymore.
What's broken heart syndrome?
Broken heart syndrome is the physical manifestation of grief. It is when your heart can actually stop. It is a manifestation. There is grief that can be so complicated and so manifest that it shows up on an MRI. These are all facts, and we don't want anybody to get to that point. So intervention is key, and really, as I have said many times for people on whose behalf I've intervened, I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to win popularity contests, because for me, high school ended a long time ago. My interest is your welfare. And if you are showing signs to me that you are in crisis, I'm going to be all over it. And I have been.
Yeah, that's what people need to do.
Get involved.
Yeah.
Don't just assume, well, she must not want to talk to me, because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. So I know you're also a contributor for the Chicken Soup for the Soul.
I am, yes.
What's that all about? What can we expect?
Well, that book is coming out on October 6th, and
That's soon, right around the corner.
That's right around the corner,
Yeah.
and it is a collection of stories of people who have overcome adversity.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
so what I discuss in the book is turning tragedy into triumph, which is basically what we talked today, is from going to that place
Yes.
of darkness into a place of light. And for me, and it continues to be being of service to people in pain and people in need and people in despair who feel that life is hopeless because of whatever their adversity is. And hopefully we are providing a roadmap to show them that it isn't hopeless and that there is
Turning
always
hurt into hope, right?
That's right. That's right. Very good. There is always a way to turn that hurt into
Yeah.
hope. We have all been through adversity. My story is just one of millions. We've all been through a core-shaking, life-altering challenge. What we do at that moment and from that point forward is entirely up to us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. I mean, your story is really inspiring.
Thank
and
you.
I think it could help a lot of people.
Well, I certainly hope so, and it's been wonderful being with you.
Thank you. If you like the show, please subscribe to my channel, Sophia Silva, and follow me on Instagram or hit like on my Facebook page. And thank you for watching.
All conversation and information exchanged during participation in the sophiasilva.org website, Sophia Silva YouTube channel, or interaction with, and all social media sites is intended for information and entertainment purposes only, and should not be considered a professional diagnosis or treatment. Do not confuse this information with treatment or medical advice or directions per se. Nothing posted on this site supplements or supersedes the direction of your medical caretakers. Sophia Silva, MA, does not provide the information on these pages to substitute for individualized therapy. No claim to cure, treat, diagnose, or otherwise provide mental or behavioral health care is guaranteed, promised, or implied by this site. The same applies to any professionals who might appear on this site. This website contains links to other websites and resources. We take no responsibility for the content of other resources, electronic or written. If you're in need of any health services, please contact a licensed professional or call 911.